Welcome back to For the Mamas Collective Podcast, a space where we believe in the power of connection and shared experiences.
Hi, I'm Danielle.
And I'm Jaleesa. We're so thrilled to have you back for our fourth episode.
This podcast has been a dream for both of us because as moms, we know how much connection, community, and a space to feel seen and heard really matter.
For the Mamas Collective is all about creating that space, a warm, welcoming environment where mothers from all walks of life can come together to share stories, explore the highs and lows, and celebrate the journey of motherhood.
And like we always say, come as you are, take what you need. Today's episode is called More Than a Mother. We'll be diving into how our personalities and individuality shape the way we parent.
And this is a big one because let's face it, we're all so much more than just our roles as moms. And for our other listeners, you're so much more than just any role that you take on in your day to day. So grab your coffee or your tea, find a comfy spot, and let's get into it.
All right, Jaleesa, but before we jump into today's topic, let's take a moment for our Rose and Thorn check in.
Yes. Okay. So if you're new here, this is where we each share one rose, something positive or joyful from our week, and one thorn, which is something that was challenging or less than ideal. Danielle, you want to kick it off?
Sure. So this week I have two roses. Sorry.
Okay.
Um, but my first one, I just want to give some praise to my baby girl, Ari. She booked two modeling shoots with national baby brands this week, and she even had two checks come in the mail for some other work she
Nice.
did previously.
Go,
So,
Ari.
I know she's like booked and busy, and I just think it's so adorable because she has no idea what's going on. But
Yeah.
I just love seeing her pop up, on the internet. And I'm waiting. We did some packaging shoots, so I'm waiting to find those items in stores and some Carter shoot for the spring collection. So if you guys are out and about and
Oh.
you see little Ari and Carters, let me know. Um, but yeah, and then this week we got a Graco commercial.
Oh,
Yeah, so
nice.
that should be fun. Um, and then and my second rose, I almost forgot because I was gonna go
Mhm.
straight to the thorn. I cut my hair.
Go,
So you see
girl.
it, but
I love
I
it.
yes, I had to get rid of the A frame, curl bob that my hair was giving me. I
Yeah.
wanted to wear it in its natural state for a very long time, and just not having a good shape to do that was,
Yeah.
prohibiting me. So I'm excited. I think I'm comfortable and I'm staying strong. I'm still in my
Yeah.
2025, no direct heat. We're diffusing. Let's not get it twisted, but I'm trying not to flat iron.
Oh, okay.
So I'm excited about that. And the thorn for this week. I feel like I had to dig deep for this. It was,
Mhm.
surprisingly, I didn't have too many pain points this week. So it's something light, but I injured my shoulder before Christmas break,
Oh.
working out. And I got a shot, steroid shot, and
Mm.
it made me a little sore, but it's been paining me this week. So I would
Mm.
have to say just, lifting the baby and then the way the kids got to climb on
Oh.
you and
Yeah.
things like that, along with physical therapy. That's probably like the ugh of my week.
Yeah. Yeah.
But how about
Yeah.
you? Tell me what's going on.
You know what? I'm similar to you. It was kind of hard to find a thorn. This week was pretty nice to be able to say I got to dig deep. It's a
Mm,
little bit of something physical. So I can appreciate that and go Ari, go girl, get at
yeah.
it. Yes, we love that. So for me, I guess my roles would be just being more present, consistent, and dedicated.
Mm,
I was able to move my body at least 4 times this week, which felt really good, and it made me want to be more dedicated. And that was a nice personal win for me this week. And then
yes.
I don't know if I was anticipating the topic for this week, but what I was noticing a lot more are just how the kids' personalities have developed so far. Like, we always measure them, like, they like to be measured. Like, y'all
Hmm.
haven't changed in a week. um
A week.
but they like to be measured to see how tall they are. And Rob and I were doing that, and I was just thinking about their personalities in that measurement of growth of, like, Sydney is really coming into herself, and it's just something so beautiful to watch. I love to see her coming out of her shell. She's pretty much reserved,
Mhm.
but she's just turning into like a little preteen, and it's really sweet. And then, the little politician is, it's not as sweet as Sydney, but the way he talks, the way he thinks, he had me cracking up all week and frustrating me all week. Let's get that clear. He's still a boy now. But it was just really sweet to be present, and I attribute that to the consistency and dedication I made to moving my body
Mm.
and being conscious of what I was consuming this week as well. It just made my life shine this week. So I'm really dedicated to keeping that back up, because if I can be looking through a different lens, I can appreciate that. Um, but yeah, Sydney, little old smart self getting straight A's, and we were able to kind of praise her
Okay,
for that,
Sue.
and really make it a point that it's not just an expectation. Hint, hint, go check out last week's episode. It wasn't just an expectation that she gets straight A's. She expects that of herself. So
Mm.
we've instilled a value in her that she exercises on her own. We don't really have to push her in that way. And she made straight A's, and so she got to take the day off of school, and she get to eat what she wants, and so that's where we are. We're just living in la la. I guess my thorn would be, um, that I backslid a little bit. So I don't want y'all to think that we just perfect. Here's the imperfection of kind of backsliding on some of the things that I was consistent and dedicated on. But that's gonna happen. So I have to be okay with that. That overall, I succeeded in what I was going to do, and so there's that little margin of error that I'm not going to focus on. But it is the thorn.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just want to say so much of what you said, I think is going to come out in today's discussion. So I don't want to
uh
respond because I love it. You know, the
okay.
audience, our listeners, you guys will see kind of how it unfolds. But
Yeah.
just taking that time, I think it's always good to acknowledge excuse me, the roses and thorns in our life. You know, weekly, it is something that
Mhm.
definitely keeps us grounded.
For sure, for sure. And if you're listening, feel free to pause and do your own rose and thorn check in. Come back. I always want y'all to come back to us. It's just a pause. But really pause and think about that. What was your rose and thorn of the week? It's just a simple way to reflect on the highs and lows, and really you get to see so much more of yourself. You see your wholeness when you do that type of check in.
Yes. Yeah. So take this moment, pause. All right, let's
Yes.
go.
Let's go. We back at it. All right, Danielle. So I want to start by asking you something.
Okay.
If someone asked you to describe yourself without using the word mom, what would you say?
Mm. That is such a great question, Jaleesa. I think for me, I would say that I am creative in a sense. Don't
Mm.
let's not go too far because there's some really creative people. It's channeled creativity,
Yeah.
okay? But I am generous and straightforward.
Mhm.
And so, which is probably why I think I'm more straightforward and direct than anything. But
Mhm.
probably why I'm so able to just freely share on this podcast because it's like that's a constant in my everyday life.
Yeah.
I hear that from a lot of people when they
Yep.
describe my personality,
For sure.
but I know it. So tell me about you.
I think I'm pretty much the same. I love that. I know that about you. I lean heavy into being an Aries. Like that, I guess I'm
Oh
making that
yeah,
my personality, but it's true. So I think I'm pretty much the same. I'd say my creativity, like you, is channeled. It's not something I lead with. I don't lead in creativity. I'm like
yeah.
stick figures, bullet points. Yeah, I'm pretty basic, but there are some things where it shines. But for me, most importantly, I would say I'm more assertive, straightforward. I can appreciate the generosity too. I think that there's something to that, but for me, um, maybe I'm more passionate.
Mm,
Maybe I'd say I'm more passionate than my passion would drive any creative outlet that I had, but That's me. I like to call myself an alpha female. And I believe that that is who I am. I lead with that. My husband said he picked me for that reason, so I'm gonna lean into that real heavy. But I am, and for me, the definition of that is just someone who's often characterized by like being bold and confident and having some leadership qualities. So I think I take that. I think I said that in the first episode too. Like most people see me and they probably think I have a big energy that takes up a lot of space. I do. But I it comes from that, from being more assertive and straightforward. And by nature I am empathic, but it is expressed maybe more
Mm,
professionally than, heavily at home. I mean, we're all empathetic people. We have all have the capacity. I'll say that.
yeah.
But I like to give myself the grace to know that it it shows up differently for everyone. You get y'all not gonna get it the same. Everyone's not gonna get the same measure of empathy from me, the alpha female Aries. But it's there, and I am sensitive, and I think that's a beautiful thing to say and to
Yeah.
be, as I am a sensitive person led by that empathic part of me. But you're gonna get some else before you see that. So what about you?
So yeah, I mean, I think that, I mean, you went way deep, but I
Yeah, I
resonate
did.
with so much of that. Again, we're I think that's kind of what drew us together, right? Just our
Yeah.
Aries-ness, if
Yeah.
you will.
Yeah.
But I see so much of myself in you, and I feel it. And like you said, um, it's I know we're not supposed to use the word mom, but I
Mhm.
firmly believe that, all the things that I characterize and define myself on or by
Mhm.
are due to motherhood. So, like it's not like
Mm.
creativity. I know we kind of had a chat about this before the call, but it's channeled through my children a lot. Like that's how I
Mm.
see it. When
Mhm.
they make mistakes and I'm like there to save the day, that's my
Yeah.
creativity, right? Like how do we save
Mm.
this poster or this project or what do we do, and to see the joy in their faces. And just
Mhm.
little things, right? Like when we're home and they want to do something and I don't feel like running to the store. Well, we're going to use what we have. How can we get creative in these ways, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so even just saying, like, this is me not using the word mom, but so much of who I am goes into the way that I parent.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
But I think that still proves our point, right? That our identities are layered, and
hmm
outside of being a mother, motherhood can amplify those parts of us. So being a mom is one part. It's not necessarily all of who we are, but it is a context. It's a context that amplifies.
right, yep, exactly. And it's those layers that can directly impact the way that we parent.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I know, I just kind of went into my creativity, but when I think further, when I talk about the generosity, and just the way that I or the feedback rather that I get from my children if they
Mm.
go to a sleepover or if they're at a game or just out with friends, it doesn't matter what they're doing.
Yeah.
When they come back, I'm always told, like, oh, your children are so polite. They're so well
Mhm.
mannered. They're such
Mhm.
good listeners. And even like little things like, my son dropped something on the ground and your son said, oh no, we don't litter, and picked it up and threw it
Mm.
in the trash. And I think that, I work very hard to try to be the change that I want to see in the world.
Yeah.
And I include my children in all of that, right? So if I'm doing things, I explain to them why we do it this way. If we're doing
Yeah.
community outreach, like Chase and I will go, to McDonald's or any restaurant nearby, and we'll just go out and feed the homeless. And I let him,
Mm.
do the deliveries. But I do that all the time,
Mhm.
and just to make sure that it's who I am, but that they see it and they get it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So
I
it's
don't
it's
know.
it's a part of their normal, right?
Yeah.
That's the lens that they see the world through, that you've helped craft for them.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's a good point. I like that.
Mm.
Got something to learn. Okay. Got a new thing to look to try to do. Add into my day. I'm like try to add that into the day. Because for us, when we express generosity, it's usually so that I can get some stuff up out the house. Uh, I'm like, but even taking the time to explain and communicate, and I think for me, communication really shapes me as a parent. It
Mm,
shapes my empathy. It shapes, my assertion. I have to be able to communicate feelings and thoughts and speak to the world that's around us. So and in that, I'm big on speaking that life into them. I'm big
mhm.
on validating their feelings, and obviously that pretty much comes from that personality point of needing to communicate. I need us to be honest and open about
Yes.
what we're feeling and how we're feeling it. Um, so we take a lot of time to talk about things. Very typical, I guess, of kids who have a parent who's a clinician is we're gonna talk about it. We're really gonna work
Mhm.
this out through our communication. Because really for me, I've always wanted for people to feel seen and heard, it's and understood, because I've wanted it for
Mhm.
so long. I think that's such a big piece of my personality and why I show up in the world that I do, because I saw so much of myself. And early on you operate like, okay, I didn't have that, so I want you to have it. I want these people to know how that feels. So that's why I say I have to really temper, and I have boundaries around my empathy. Um, but it's because I feel very deeply for people and want them to feel seen, heard, and understood. And that really starts with my children. My children really get that space from me.
And you know what? I want to pause there
Yeah.
for two reasons. One, to give you praise because, yes, you do a
Thanks.
phenomenal job with that. And my house is a little different. My,
Okay.
you know how they say like when you go to work, your boss and your coworkers they kind of get the best of who you are, and then you
Mhm.
come home and your spouse and your family gets what's left, or if you had a bad day, that's kind of wearing on them.
Yeah.
I very much feel that way about my home, and
Mm.
I'm not proud of it. It's something that I am actively working to change. So I guess this is leaning into part two, but the that's where Trey comes in, and
Mhm.
we're talking about parenting styles, but I'm so straightforward that I don't always know how to dial it back, and
Mm.
so he'll come in and he's where the communication starts to really form and we can break
Mhm.
it down and we can get to the root cause and we can get the feelings out. And that's, I mean,
Mm.
in our relationship, that's with the children, all of that. Cause sometimes he's like, Danielle, I don't think y'all are going to get very far on the homework if that's how you're going to lead it. And I'm like,
Okay.
got it. And so like, but
Yeah.
I need that. So I do. I want to give you praise for that, and then just acknowledging that like I know I need to do better because I think my empathy for
Mhm.
others is is huge. It's I
Mm.
mean like
Like
I don't know.
overflowing.
I have very you know loose, rigid boundaries around that. Like anybody and strangers. I get up in the middle of the day because I saw something on Facebook and somebody's like, "Hey, I'm cold. I need a blanket." And I'm just like grabbing stuff from the house, whether we need it or if I know we'll need it again. And I'm
Yeah.
out there just, giving because I just feel so much for others. But then when I look at my children, I'm very much like, no, this is what we do.
Yeah.
This is how the house is run. This is what I'm very dominant and structured in that way. So my
Yeah.
empathy kind of gets blocked sometimes, if you
Mm.
will.
Yeah. A little
And I,
imbalanced.
yeah, there's an imbalance, and I feel it, and I know it. So I know it's up to me to, kind of find that balance because I want my kids to have the best of me, especially if the rest of the world is
Yeah.
getting it. But
Yeah. But I think
yeah,
that
that's it.
goes to like we talked about in the last episode of the expectations.
Hmm.
Sometimes expectations and how we want our children to be, the person that we want them to be, uh sometimes we lead with that fire, with that
Yeah.
straightforwardness, with that assertion, with those high expectations, because I had to
Hmm.
work my way into this. So with Sydney, like I'm here now, but when she was little, I blew up often,
Mm.
and it was emotion driven, so the world around me created a lot of stress, and so I was very tight, very rigid. And I had low tolerance for how she was feeling. And that is something that I don't have many regrets, but I regret that, because I can't take that time back. I can't get
Mhm.
those moments back. It's something's been imprinted, right? So yes, mine are mannerable and respectful and stuff outside too. And sometimes, like, I take the compliment, but then I'm also like, yeah, but I think I kind of scared my kid into that early on.
Mm.
So now, I refuse to instill anything that feels like fear, because
Mhm.
I want her to know that I am an authority figure. Like, don't play with me, but also you're safe with me.
Right.
So for me, I had to learn how to be an emotional safe space for my
Mhm.
child, because you are pretty much, sometimes we're raised like that, of like, you just got to get it done. Here are the expectations. Parents are stressed coming home from work, and I just didn't like that feeling. And so
Yeah.
I had to work really hard about that. And it doesn't change that I'm not stressed. It's more of like, I put language to it now versus leading with emotion. I'm not always doing that, and that's the thing. They probably get the best of me in that way, and the rest of the world outside of my professional career probably don't get me thinking this hard about it. But as a mom, I'm really like, okay, I have to tell you that I'm feeling this, to keep me from blowing up, to make space for your emotions. And then we're going to talk about it. And then I'm going to be frustrated. And then here comes dad. And then, it's so convoluted, but it feels better than just me scorching the earth.
Mhm.
And then now my kids are scared, which I don't know. Maybe I should have had. Maybe I need to switch back for Robert, because I don't think this is working with him. He need a little burning under that. He need a little fire under his behind. I don't know, but yeah, it came from that. It really had to grow from a place that I saw myself, and I didn't like it. I didn't like how my
Yeah.
personality was showing in parenthood. It was impactful. I'm like, ugh, like, Sydney don't need this. She's my kid.
Right.
I'm like, ooh, I don't want to show up in this. I don't want to be the villain in her story. I don't want to be the big bad wolf. So I got
Mhm.
to change. So I'm a
You got me
wolf
taking
now.
notes right
Yeah.
now.
Hey, I'm
Put
still a
language
wolf
behind
now.
Insta because I would just exit stage left. I'm like, Chase, I'm going to leave you right here with that homework. I'll be back.
Yeah.
And I know that's not the healthiest way, but that's me preventing a blow up
Yep.
because, second grade homework,
Ooh.
right. I don't even have the
Ooh.
words to put behind that, but I've done that, right? This is easy. I don't understand what
Yes.
you don't get, but so to prevent the blow up, I leave. But
Yeah.
yes, I love what you said. Put the language behind it, and I know I'm capable.
Mhm.
It's just an awareness. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And the walk away is still good. It's just, hey, I'm walking away because I can't right now. I'll be back. I'll be back. Try yourself. I'm gonna come on, collect myself, and I'm gonna come back. I'm not
right.
leaving you. I'm not abandoning you. But I need
Hmm.
a minute so that I can get to this point. Um, so yeah, it's just awareness, however we work into it. But I think that does lead us into, like, the breakdown of the parenting styles. So
Hmm.
parenting experts and clinicians alike often speak to this. If you work with parents and children, just talking about the different parenting styles that are out there: authoritative, permissive, authoritarian, and so on. But your personality really determines how those styles play out in real life. Like, I really actively try to be an authoritative. I believe it's authoritative. Authoritarian is like kind of like a dictator, really strict. And I believe
Hmm.
authoritative is a good balance. You have a good balance of boundaries and where you can be flexible. So whichever one that is that has the good balance, that's the one I'm working towards. And y'all, it don't matter how many classes I take, I still forget which one. So y'all can look that up if you want to, but I believe it's authoritative.
Yes. And I mean, just on some other styles, like if you're a naturally laid back person, right? Like you might gravitate toward more of a permissive style of
Mhm.
parenting. But if you're more detail oriented, which I see myself here,
Mhm.
you lean more towards like structure and routine. This is,
Yes.
what was it, episode 2?
I think so. Oh yeah.
Yeah, where we just talked about it. Like I am routine. I need to know what's coming next. That's how I have a to do list on my phone, in my head, in my
Yeah.
purse. it's everywhere, but everything is on a schedule for me.
Yeah.
And that's how, like, that structure is what keeps my therapist used to always say, she'd say, you run your home like a well-oiled machine. And she
Uh-huh.
was like, it's just a system that you have working. And I'm like, yeah, but I try very hard, but that's for me. That's who I am. And so,
Mhm.
that's what my kids get.
Yeah, right? And so they're going to get the straightforward comes from structure, routine. Like
Mhm.
this is needing to go the way I planned it out to go, right? So, there's place to find balance in that. Like you said, your kids
Mhm.
bring your generosity out and they may, obviously bring some of that straightforwardness out for sure. But there's always balance. There's always a meet, in the middle. Like I said, I think that I'm trying to work more in building the emotional connection between me and the
Mhm.
kids because I am so assertive. I am an impatient person. That is I don't know.
Yes.
I think it's an Aries thing, but so I could take ownership. Like I'm not gonna put everything
I mean,
on
I'm
my
not going to leave you on that island alone. I am also
Yeah.
impatient. I don't
Very
know where it
impatient.
comes from. It's
Yeah.
natural. I didn't
Yes.
choose this. I would love
Yes.
to be more patient.
Yes.
Trey and I just had a conversation about patience. He's going to laugh when he hears this. But yeah, and I was just giving him praise for his. And he was like, I think you're pretty patient. And I said, you have no idea.
You have no idea
No
the
idea.
amount of mental energy I'm expending
Hmm.
right now to
Yeah.
not
If you could see the fire coming from my ears, you would know,
Yes.
that, like, I'm not. I didn't blow up, but I am
Yes, it's eating me
brewing
alive.
on the inside.
Yes. Yes, that's the thing for me. Like, oh yeah, so I'm going back to your point of like motherhood shaped how you show up in your personality style, right? Because it
Hmm.
took for Sydney for me to see myself in that what I say felt ugly to be like, wow, I really have to like I have to swallow that fireball. I cannot it
Yeah.
throwing it at her is literally the most pointless thing to do in the world. So, but I do not have a good grasp on patience and have a very low tolerance. That's with anybody. Like the whole like anybody can really get it if I let it loose. But I'm actively expending a lot of energy on not doing that. I want to be different. That's why I lean into the astrology because it can't be me. Like it can't be me. Has to be
Yeah.
something else. What is this innate thing that I have this fire inside when little stupid things happen? How do I have such a big reaction? Like I have no patience. Like we're tying our shoes. Please, just can I just do it for you? Okay, no, I can't do it for you. So I let me just sit here and boil over. And then you did it. Yay! Let's get out of the house 10 minutes late now.
Story of my life. That is so real. And I think, I know we keep talking about this, but just that directness, I
Mhm.
am so guilty of talking to my children in that way. And so
Mhm.
I like I'm a creature of structure and organization. So when you know, I hate to say bark, but that's what it comes out at. But when I bark out orders
Mhm.
and they stand there and they look at me, like there's egg on my face or
Yeah.
something, it's just like, huh?
Yeah.
And I have to remember, like, their little brains can't always comprehend this. So,
Right.
yes, I can be straightforward, I can be direct, but they're children, and so
Mhm.
then I find myself going back and rephrasing, the sentiment so that they get it, so that they can actually
Yeah.
execute my ask or understand my statement. Um,
Yes.
Again, I've been parenting for how long?
Right.
20 years, and I'm still learning. I'm still learning.
Mhm.
But it's just that, and you know what? Let me throw that in there. While we're talking about parenting styles, they change over time.
Yes.
Marquise received my directness very well.
Mm.
He does very good with structure.
Mhm.
It's Chase
Yeah.
who's different. And I don't know, how Ari will kind of form. She's still very young, but her new
Right.
favorite thing this week is I'll ask her something and she goes, "What?
Yeah.
What?" And I'm like, first of all, stop tilting your head.
Yeah.
And why is there so much emphasis on this T? What?
Mhm.
Go sit down. Which is, I can't with her. But like it's just so different. So Chase is very emotional. He's very sensitive as a
Mm.
child. And
Mhm.
sometimes my straightforwardness or directness, it scares him. It
Mhm.
makes him shut down. He
Yep.
will we call it his armadillo defense mechanism, but he like literally just like shutters himself in.
Yeah.
And so I don't want him to feel that way around me.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I still, even still knowing this,
Mhm.
find myself rephrasing the things that I say because I didn't get it
Mhm.
right the first time.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I can't expect, a 7-year old to
Yeah.
understand my 35-year-old directness.
Yeah.
So,
Right. It's having the awareness, oh, right, I can't make you fit in my adult world. I'm going to now reformulate this because the ask is still a necessary ask, but
mhm.
I'll reformulate it for you. I think that's the piece that, and maybe we didn't grow up in those times. I wasn't getting a whole lot of reformulation. We really had to, our brains had to catch it and catch up and get it figured out
Yeah.
and get to going. But
Yep,
our
you
kids are
you had
now,
to learn your parents, but like we did. I had
yes,
to learn my mom's
yes.
personality so I could be like, okay, let me not do this because that's going to make her upset or she's going to grow
Absolutely.
impatient here, right? It
Yes.
had very little to do with my personality.
Yes.
And now I'm like, oh no, Chase is sensitive. Let me do this. Or Marquise,
Mhm.
flourishes in this way. And
Right.
my personality, it kind of it flows differently between the two
Yes.
of them. But
Yes. Yes. That's it though.
mm,
Allowing yourself to flow and show up differently, and now learning and walking in that space of, I have to show up differently at this stage of your life. I
mhm,
can't just be okay with being a blow up type of person. I really, like you said, Sydney's an armadillo as well. It's like, this is not going to work. She's
yeah.
not going to get it. Robert, unfazed, going toe to toe. Cool. Okay, I got it. So it's so different, but I love the challenge of that.
Mhm.
There's something to that when you see yourself growing by choosing to show up differently for them, and making it like, this is not necessarily about me, my personality can be full, in full
Mhm.
effect. But when we're talking about motherhood, like, we have to temper that for each child individually at each individual stage that they will go through in their life as well. That's something that's a little extra layer. I think that makes motherhood beautiful and exhausting all at the
Yeah,
same
yeah.
time.
Agreed. And I think, and while we're talking about like embracing, your individuality as a
Mhm.
mom,
Mhm.
one thing I want to emphasize, we're very much similar, right?
Mhm.
So a lot of what we're saying, I resonate with what you're saying and vice versa.
Mhm.
But whatever it is that, shows up in your personality, I just want to emphasize that it's okay
Mhm.
to bring your full, authentic
Yes.
self to your parenting.
Yes.
It
Yes.
is, in fact, necessary. Your
Yes.
children need that.
Yes.
So don't shy away from it.
Yeah, absolutely, right? Embrace your individuality, and show your kids that it's okay for them to be their authentic selves as well. And for me, that's why I have to let them know how I'm feeling, so that they know this is mommy's feeling. It don't have anything to do with me. So my kids are learning, okay, mommy might be frustrated or this or that, but it's not about me. I don't want my kids to go, oh, like you said, let me move around because I'm gonna catch this. You're not gonna catch it. I am me. I am frustrated
Mhm.
in this moment, and I show up however I show up. But I can contain it to just me. It's not going to spill over into them.
Right. And I,
Yeah.
I think that's where the idea, even like our episode title this week,
Mhm.
but of being more than a mother really resonates.
Mhm.
Because one, you don't have to lose yourself in motherhood,
Yeah.
but, like your hobbies, your passions, your quirks,
Mhm.
whatever they all have a place in how you parent.
Yeah.
Yes, we might have to tweak a thing or two,
Yeah.
but they all have a place still.
Absolutely, right? I think the more we allow ourselves our individuality and don't make motherhood all of who we are, it
Hmm.
allows more space for balance. So I can appreciate, the mothers that show up, and it's it's a part of them in that way. But also, there's space for balance. We want to try
Yeah.
to make room for us as individuals. So, I just love that. I love that this is the direction this topic is going. And I also think it's important to model to again, model that self-care and that individuality. So, knowing who you are. I think I said this to someone else. I was having a conversation with someone and I was saying, for me, I kind of have to see my name on things to remind myself of who I am. Like
Mm,
I am Jaleesa Purtle. Like that I have to be that. And so I hyphenate my last name. Um and then in some other worlds I'm just Jaleesa Purtle. And for me that feels so deeply important that I'm not just mom, I'm not just someone's wife. I am not engulfed in all these things that don't necessarily come they complete me, but they aren't who I am. I have to be me. That's what I'm
mhm,
learning in these 30 plus years is if you don't make space for Jaleesa Nicole Purtle, you are not going to show up in enough wholeness for the family you've chosen, for the children you brought into this world.
mm.
So if I'm not Jaleesa, then I'm not going to be the best mom. I'm not going to be the best babe, right? I'm not going to be the best wife.
Yeah.
Um, so, finding your individuality and, like you said, appreciating your authenticity. Like, it's okay to be who you are with all your quirks and passions and things. Discover it, know what that looks like, know what you want for you so that you can
Mhm.
show up for the little people in your life, for the spouse, for the friend, for the whomever. I just think that that's important, and it helps to prioritize our mental health. I think that creates more balance, like I said. And then it always, as always, it will send that message right again to the kids and to the people around you that it's okay for them to do the same thing. You can show up in your individuality. I receive you. I appreciate your authenticity, and know that that's how I'm coming to. And we
Mhm.
just meet. We meet each other in our wholeness, and move forward from there. To me, I appreciate that dynamic.
Yes, and I mean that's so true. And I know I've shared this before, but I make it a point to carve out reading time for myself.
Mhm. Mhm.
That is one of the only things I do. So yes, I'm going to harp on it always
Yes.
until I find myself something else to do.
Yeah.
Um, but it not only makes me feel more like me,
Yeah.
I'm happier when I get time to read, but also it's giving my kids a front row seat. Like
Mm.
growing up, reading felt like a chore, right? It was
Mm.
homework. I
Mhm.
did it because I had to. And so for
Mhm.
the longest, I thought I didn't enjoy reading. And now that I'm back into it, I do. I can just sit down in a quiet place. It can be noisy in this house.
Yeah.
But, and I pick up a book and I read.
Mhm.
And just being consistent in doing that and doing it for myself. Chase now. He asked me
Mm.
last night. He was like, "Mom, are you going to read tomorrow? I'm going to read with you." And of course he
Yeah.
put like a time limit on it. Like I'm going to read with you for 30 minutes. I'm like, "That's fine."
Yeah.
It's got to be on his terms. But
Yeah.
still, just being that role model for them, like you
Mhm.
said. And so now, he's reading outside of school. This isn't required work.
Yeah.
And I love that for him. But at the same time, he's doing it because of who I truly am. And
Right.
that's what I think is beautiful. It's nice to witness.
Yeah.
Um so yeah.
Right. And that witnessing came from you taking more space for self. So
Mhm.
you're witnessing to the duality of that, pouring into your own cup and watching the overflow. The overflow is the little valuable things that the kids pick up and you
Yep.
surprise you. Like that's the
Yep.
sweet part about showing up in your individuality, accepting yourself for who you are, changing some things that need to be changed or tempering them from
Mhm.
person to person. But that I love that. For me, it used to be cooking. I used to really love that. Not so
Mm.
much. Not so much anymore. But for me, I think it's more maybe like a my spiritual practice. And so and doing like yoga and meditating and stuff. And Robert picks some of that up. Sydney's really good with that too. And Rob had used to have her do something every morning. I'm gonna remind them to get back into it, where we just center ourselves. And Robert will come and invade my centering, but for him to be like, "No, mommy, is we do this," because they even do it in school, which I love.
Oh,
So he allows me to do it too. We got over the hump of disrupting my time, but the more I stuck with, hey, I'm gonna be doing this for a few minutes. I need I need you some peace and I need some quiet. You can
mm,
come do it with me or you could just watch. Whatever you choose, I'm doing this. And so for him to come into it, and Sydney will join from time to time. I love that they see me doing something that is not only a spiritual practice, but it is for me too, and it's of centering. So again, for us, it always goes back to showing them emotion, and then showing them emotion regulation, and showing them how to take care of that part of you.
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that for
I
y'all.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. And so, we always like to give you a little something to
Yeah.
take with.
Hmm.
So before we sign off, we want to leave you with a little takeaway,
Hmm.
something practical or reflective that you can carry with you after listening to this episode.
Yes. So, okay, I'll jump in because I think we're vibing on the same wavelength. So, I think this is where you're going. So, today, let's do this takeaway. Spend 10 minutes this week doing something that connects you to your individuality. Maybe it's journaling, dancing to your favorite song, or even just stepping outside for a quiet moment. Whatever it is, let it be something that reminds you of who you are beyond motherhood.
Mm, I love that. And if you're feeling adventurous, share it with us.
Yeah.
You can tag us on social media, leave a comment, send us a message. We love to hear how you are reconnecting with yourself.
Yes. Because as we said earlier, motherhood isn't about losing yourself, it's about becoming even more of who you already are.
Mm,
So, okay, Danielle, what you think? That feels like a good point to sign off.
yeah,
Okay.
I'm
Okay,
inclined
cool.
to agree.
Okay. All right, y'all. So thank you so much for joining this conversation today.
Yes, thank you. And we hope this episode inspired you to embrace your individuality and see how it shapes your parenting in beautiful ways.
Yes. And if you enjoyed today's episode, we'd love to have you, like Danielle said, join us on social media, subscribe, leave a review, do all the social media things, and share it with another mama or another person in your life that you care about who could use some encouragement.
Yes. And always remember, you're more than a mother. You're an incredible, multifaceted human being.
Yes. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.
Bye.
Bye.